Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. Today I'm going to talk about a local story that's been making the rounds, and this is probably going to be a Scotch video because there's a bunch of people lining up to embarrass themselves on this one. So the headline is, and this is via CTV, I'm linking the article in the description below, you should check it out, but it's man tased, then shot dead by 4 Edmonton police officers, had 3 firearms, and they've got that in scare quotes. So the rough story here is that a 55-year-old man was seen with something that appeared to be a handgun. Police officers responded and were following this individual. Police report that he was backing away from the officers but still facing them. Now, I've heard some hearsay reports that I can't confirm that he might have actually been fleeing. I don't know what was going on here, but what the police say is that he was backing away and facing them. They say they attempted to de-escalate the situation and that failed, and that they tried to tase him twice without success. Now, that's not super surprising. Lots of people have this idea that tasers are kind of this magic weapon that just always works to disable people, and in reality, tasers are often ineffective for various reasons. They rely on 2 darts penetrating a target such that a current can run across those darts through the person, and so if people are wearing heavy clothing, that can interfere with a taser, or just if one dart misses or something else goes wrong. So tasers often fail, and in this case, they tried twice and it failed. So ultimately, they resorted to shooting him and killing him. He didn't survive being shot, and that's the end of that. Now, one of the things is that they then later were doing further investigation, and they found what they describe as 2 potential improvised firearms and 1 modified imitation firearm. And this is where a lot of people have been thinking that this story is hilarious. And the reason why is because the police provided a picture of what these things look like. And so I'll just show you here real quick. So here's 2 of the 3 items. And so people are just finding this to be hilarious. And quite frankly, I think that a lot of them are wrong on this one. So I'm going to just show you an example of this, and this is an example I'm picking out because it's somebody who I think ought to know better. There's plenty of other examples of people who really ought to know better on this one, but here's one person's commentary on this just to sort of illustrate what people are saying. And this is via Duncan Kinney's Twitter, and he identifies himself as the editor and host of the Progress Report. So he shows a picture of this, the one image that we saw there, and he says, ASERT called this a potential improvised firearm, with scare quotes, in a release today. Anything with a handle and something vaguely cylindrical on top is now potentially a gun, I guess. And he goes on to say, it's not clear to me that these 2 things are attached in any way. They could just be next to each other, and they also have separate labels. I've reached out to ASERT to clarify, and clarifying is a good idea. I think that that is something he should absolutely do, but I think maybe he should have clarified before he made the comments, not after, because I look at this thing and I'm pretty sure I know what it is, and I suspect a lot of my viewers are too, because a lot of my viewers are, are gun owners and are sort of familiar with the concept and function of guns generally. So, all right, let's talk about this thing. Let's bring up the picture. So one thing that was identified here is that there's 2 labels which suggest that this is an item in 2 separate pieces. And Mr. Kinney, I think, has made a big mistake here because I think he's misidentified the 2 separate pieces. He's thinking that the 2 pieces are the entire bit on top, and I'm going to try to sort of, in editing, I'm going to try to indicate what I'm talking about here, and that curved bit on the bottom. So he thinks, or at least that's my read on his comments, that he thinks that these are 2 separate, that those are the 2 separate items. I look at this and it looks to me like there's a weld or a join between this bottom curved piece and this top cylinder. And just from my understanding of what this probably is, the second piece would be this top left part that's actually slid onto the inner pipe. Now, I'm not going to give too many details on how exactly this would be constructed because YouTube's got some rules on that. But to my read, this looks like a very common design of improvised pipe shotgun. And essentially, the way it would work is that there's that top pipe and then a second slightly larger pipe that slides over top of it, and it would be fired by essentially pulling those two pieces together at speed and causing a shotgun shell placed inside, and probably a shotgun shell given the sort of dimensions and so forth, and the usual kind of designs of this, to strike a firing pin inside, which means, this looks like a shotgun to me. And unless somebody screwed up in assembling it, this is probably a functional shotgun. I would be very, very concerned if somebody were to come to my door armed with this thing. I would take that as a potential very serious threat. And as I said, there's lots of people just lining up to think this is hilarious, and I think they're all really wrong on that. Now, in terms of whether or not this is a clean shoot, I don't know. It sounds to me, if we take the police at their word, and, I don't know, I wasn't there, but if we take the police at their word, my bet would be clean shoot. And if you've watched my channel before, you know that I'm often critical of the police. I am a defense lawyer. It is kind of the nature of the job. But that doesn't mean that I like to turn my brain off and just assume that the police are always in the wrong. The police they articulate at least, and assuming that they're being accurate in the media report, that they took several intermediate steps to try to avoid the use of lethal force, that being de-escalation and the attempt to use less lethal, the taser options. But I would be concerned if the police saw somebody with something like this and said, you know what, we're not going to do anything about that. Just, okay, asking you to stop didn't work, trying to tase you didn't work, so we're just going to let you run off. And, no. My read on this, and we're going to have to see, the police are going to have to do some testing, and if I were analyzing this thing, I'd want to test this thing very carefully by means of, not with it directly in your hands. I don't know if this thing is going to shatter and cause injury to the person using it, but I think it's likely that this thing is just a short shotgun. And that's pretty lethal to me. So my bet on this is clean shoot, but I can't, as I said, I can't say for certain. I do think that people who are looking at this and going, oh, that's obviously not a gun. Well, no, I think that's a bit of an ignorant take. Lots of people out there with that take. I'm not naming all of them. But yeah. Anyway, I guess that's my comments. Thank you for watching. I hope that you found this to be interesting and educational. I hope that some of the people in the media who think this is hilarious have had a watch too. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to see more content. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters at the $50 level, Canada's National Firearms Association, the CCFR, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. At the $30 level, Sights and Arms Limited and Marc-Olivier Damour. And at the $20 level, Peter Hilger, Mark Whittington, Jane Babin Luxor, Haywire, Dale Nesbitt, Cameron Johnson, Bruno R., Andrew Elsich, and Aaron Delso. Thank you as well to the $10 supporters who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching, and I hope this has armed you with knowledge.